Hey, good morning. It's Bob Desmond here. I wanted to talk about a couple of leg injuries that I sustained over the last several months, going back to the 22nd of December 2024, all the way up to today, June 10th, 2025. I had a couple of one especially, very difficult leg injuries. And I'm a relatively avid hiker. I love to go out in nature and hike. Love the exercise, love the peace of mind, love the fresh air, and so on. Anyway, on or about December 22nd, 2024, I injured my right knee. All I can say is I went over to Lake Louisa State Park in Claremont. I did a 6-mile hike, one of my favorite hikes there. When I finished, I actually wanted to go do another hike, but I figured I should get home. So anyway, next day after that, I mowed the lawn and my legs started to really hurt me. I wasn't sure what was going on. And my knee swelled up, and eventually I went to a walk-in ortho clinic in Winter Garden, Florida. And I made an appointment, and eventually a couple of days later I saw I take it back. I walked in and I saw a physician's assistant, and she diagnosed my problem. Am I getting this mixed up? Yeah, I am. I'm getting two stories mixed up. I walked into the clinic, I made an appointment, and I saw Dr. Worrell, a young orthopedic doctor. Great guy, really nice guy. And he told me to do physical therapy. So they sent me to physical therapy, and I started doing that over at the Dr. Phillips Hospital. I think I did 5 or 6 sessions. And I did a lot of exercises. When I got home from those sessions, my physical therapist, Chris, would give me a lot of different exercises. And I strengthened this knee back up, and I was doing pretty good up until sometime in January. We went to San Francisco to visit my grandson, Henry, and my son, Luke, and my daughter-in-law, Anna. And we went out there, and my knee was a mess. No problem flying out, but once I got there with all the hills in San Francisco and the steps, lots of steps into their second floor of their house, and we also went to Lake Tahoe, and all the young people skied. Teresa, my wife, and I watched the baby, and lots of steps and crazy stuff. My knee was a mess. It was just a mess. And I made an appointment while I was in San Francisco to get an MRI of the right knee when I got back. And I did that. I got the MRI, and the results were a torn right lateral meniscus on the outside of my right knee. I tore a pretty long chunk of the meniscus, and I went to consult with Dr. Worrell about my MRI results. And the first thing he said to me, which surprised me, was, the first thing you can do is just live with it. Live with the torn meniscus. And my brain didn't understand that. I figured if it's torn, doesn't it need to be surgically repaired? So anyway, I decided not to believe what he said, because he also told me I could get surgery, and he would go in there arthroscopically and remove the torn meniscus, so on and so on. Anyway, I thought about it. I got home and I thought about it. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I decided that not to do the surgery because what they're doing nowadays with the torn meniscus is essentially just live with it. And if it hurts, you get a shot of cortisone. And until it gets really, really bad, the next option is a knee replacement. So anyway, I wasn't crazy about any of those options, but I decided just to live with it. And eventually, it got better. The swelling went down, and I eventually got back into my hiking life. 1 mile first, and then 2 miles, and next thing you know, I was doing 4 miles, and next thing you know, I was doing like 14 miles in 2 days, and I'm walking very slowly. I was doing a clip of maybe 2 miles an hour in the woods, and that's a very slow walk for me. Usually I walk 3 miles in an hour. So I was doing 2 miles an hour, and I had no pain, and everything was bright and cheery. It was great. And I am 70 years old, so I'm no spring chicken. But I didn't really fall or twist it or have any kind of a injury. Essentially, I have an arthritic knee, and with the age, shit happens, as they say. My mother used to say, getting old isn't for sissies. And my mom was right. She lived to be 96. Anyway, so I was going merrily along and everything was fine. And I worked one morning, it's about 6 weeks ago. This is now June 10th. So this would have been like right at the beginning of May. And I was working in my guitar shop, and I worked all morning, and I decided to go over to Disney and go to the Magic Kingdom. I hadn't been there for quite a while, and since Disney was a big part of my life, my career was there, my photography career was there. I like to go every once in a while, and I went to the Magic Kingdom. My other leg, not my knee, but my left leg was bothering me. And that's what this video is really about, my left leg. Not my torn meniscus, which I still have, and I'm dealing with it. But I'm talking about my left calf, okay? Like from the knee down. And I went over to Disney, and I got out of my car, and I walked over to the Transportation and Ticket Center to get on a monorail to go to the Magic Kingdom. And my leg hurt. The back of my leg hurt. Was kind of crampy, a little bit like a Charlie horse, but just kind of sore. And I walked around the Magic Kingdom for maybe 3 hours, went on a few rides, whatever. And my leg kept feeling worse and worse. And when I exited a few hours later, walking back to my car after I got off the monorail, my leg was really hurting me. And the next morning when I woke up, it was excruciating. And that's what this video is about. And the reason I'm making this video is to give other people who are suffering from this problem, to give them hope that there is healing and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so what happened? So I went back to the clinic, the walk-in clinic. It's Orlando Orthopedic. And I saw a physical therapist because Dr. Worrell wasn't in the office that day. And she was very nice, and she looked at my leg. My calf was all swollen. It was as hard as a rock. It was excruciating pain, like on a scale of 1 to 10 Charlie horse, we're talking like a 9. It was brutal pain, the most brutal pain I've ever had. And I've had a hip replacement, and I've had a couple of other surgeries, and I had a surgery in the groin for, I won't go into the details, but it was to repair a fistula that was caused when I had a heart ablation back in 2015. Recovering from that surgery, like a 5-inch cut, that wasn't too bad. And when I had my hip replaced, my left hip, recovering from that was brutal for about 5 days, but it kept getting better and better and better. And before I knew it, I was walking around Epcot 2 weeks later with a cane, no problem. So anyway, she told me to get an ultrasound of my lower leg to make sure I didn't have a blood clot, okay? And my wife's a nurse, and she felt my pulse in my ankle, and she could feel a good strong pulse, so she was pretty sure that I didn't have a blood clot. But anyway, I had a ultrasound done, and when they put me on the table to do the ultrasound, they actually injured my hip replacement. And I remember the technician saying, "Okay, Bob, you got to turn a little this way." And I said, "Wait a minute, stop. You're killing me. My hip is really hurting." And she said, "Well, it'll just be a minute more." You know, in the process, she injured me. Anyway, that's another story, but I had the ultrasound done. The results were negative for blood clot. So I didn't have a blood clot. So that was good. So now what's going on? So then the ultrasound, the conclusion from the radiologist on the ultrasound was that I had a Baker's cyst behind my kneecap. I had fluid in there. And that's possible, but eventually I had an MRI done, and that pretty much ruled out the Baker's cyst. Because actually the Dr. Worrell, my orthopedic guy, he went in with a needle, the biggest needle he had in the office, and of course they numbed me up so I didn't feel a thing, but he went in and tried to drain any fluid out of that Baker's cyst, and all he got was a tiny, tiny bit of blood, like a couple of drops. There was no fluid in there. It had turned to like hardened blood, what do they call it, like clotted blood or whatever. So he essentially thought, and I kept telling everybody, I think I tore my calf muscle in the back, because I could literally feel it like tearing a paper towel. I could feel something happening when the initial injury happened. And so eventually, after several weeks, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I finally got an MRI. Dr. Worrell says, "Why don't you get an MRI?" Duh. So I got the MRI, and sure enough, I had a torn calf muscle. And, you know, they have these long medical names for these different muscles. I'm not going to go into that because essentially, in the end, I tore a calf muscle. It bled, and now the blood is filling up my cavity here. My leg is getting swollen, very tight, very painful, the worst pain I've ever had. And I couldn't even go from sitting to standing. The pain was excruciating. And once I got up to the standing position, I had to contort my leg into a position where I could bear the pain. It was, without going into lots of details, it was insane. So anyway, it was brutal. I don't have another word for it. The only way I could get around was with this walker. I was like an old man. I went from hiking trails to, you know, barely being able to walk. And I was using a cane, but mostly the walker. For the first 4 weeks, get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom a couple of times, I'd have to get up, excruciating pain. I'd scream out in pain, wake up my wife, wander into the bathroom, had to pee standing up. I couldn't, there's no sitting down. Sitting down on the toilet was like, climbing Mount Everest. It was just awful. But anyway, the reason I'm making this video, I was losing hope. And I was thinking, crap, now I got a torn right meniscus and a torn left calf muscle. And, I can't walk. I can't do anything. I can't make guitars. I can't clean the pool, whatever. I can't bend over and pick up a leaf or a piece of trash. I can't do anything. I was useless. The only thing I could do is what they told me. Lie down on your back, elevate your leg, ice it, and put on compression socks. And I did that, and I am still doing that. This is week number 6 after the injury. However, the reason I'm making the video is somewhere around the 5th week, the beginning of the 5th week, I was starting to be able to walk again. Maybe halfway into week 5. And now today is Tuesday. The injury was on a Tuesday 6 weeks ago. So I'm just about done with week 6 now. And I am walking. I'm not hiking, but I can go out in the yard and weed whack and edge the lawn while Teresa mows it. The other day I made a giant leap. I got out of the car and walked into Costco. That was like Mount Everest to me. And I immediately grabbed the cart to hold me up while I was walking. But anyway, I'm beyond that now. Now I can walk. I can go up and down the stairs that go down to our swimming pool. I can go in and out of the pool. We have some steps that go down into the pool. Actually, being in the pool is great because you don't have any weight on your leg. You can float around on a noodle and both legs feel great. So being in a pool when you injure yourself is really a good idea. If you can get yourself into a swimming pool, by all means do it. Now it's June 10th and the weather's really hot here in Orlando, Florida. So being outside in the pool now is fine, but should this have happened in the middle of the winter, I would not be going in the pool. But once again, the only reason I'm making this video is to give anybody who tore their right or left calf. What's interesting now is I can actually move this muscle. It goes back and forth, just like my good leg. My good leg, my bad knee. And I have no hip replacement on my right, it's on my left. And I have no problem with my hip other than I still have some pain from the ultrasound tech contorting me into a position that was painful. And I talked to my orthopedic doctor, Dr. Worrell, I talked to him about that and he said, it's a muscle and it will get better, blah, blah. We'll see. But anyway, I am 70. I do have arthritic knees to some point, even though I hike a lot. There is some arthritis. We were at the Grand Canyon last year and we were on the Bright Angel Trail and we hiked down to the 1.5 mile hut and hit the bathroom there and hiked back up, and we were trying to sort of get ourselves ready to do the rim to rim at Grand Canyon in our advancing age. But I'm not sure I can do it now after these injuries. But in any case, I can stand up now. I can walk. I'm still resting it quite a lot during the day because I want it to heal before I get back on the trails. And I can't spend too much time standing at my workbench. Most of the time, either sitting in my lazy boy with the, recliner with the thing up for keep my legs elevated with pillows. I've cut back on the ice packs, but they actually go under my calf. Now, one other thing I want to talk about, 6-week mark, as I touch the back of my calf, it's still got some numbness. I know there's a medical term for that. I can't think of it right now. But it still has a bit of numbness. But for the most part, the blood from the injury, the tearing of the muscle, that blood has really started to reabsorb into the tissues. And now that's why I couldn't do anything. Now, what did this feel like? I told you about the level of pain. It felt like an excruciating Charlie horse that wouldn't go away. So imagine, anytime I stood up or tried to walk with the walker, I had a extremely painful Charlie horse. The kind that I'm talking about an 8 or 9 on the pain scale of 1 to 10. 10 being screaming, like, screaming, like, kill me, just end my life. That's 10 pain. I was like between 8 and 9. It was very, very, very painful. So if any of you end up having this injury, a calf injury, torn calf, mine was pretty much in the middle of my calf. The pain is from the blood having no place to go. And it went down to my ankles. I could feel it. Eventually, as the weeks went by, the pain was getting lower and lower. And it eventually ended up in my ankles. And it was very painful in my ankles too. And my ankles were swollen. As I look at my leg today, it's pretty normal looking. My ankle is pretty normal. I do have some varicose veins. I didn't have them when I was younger, but I would say the last 10 years I started to get them on both legs, but mainly this leg. And, shit happens. I'm not 30 anymore. But I also really enjoy my mobility and my ability to walk and hike and work around the yard and go RV camping, go out west to Arches and the different national parks that we enjoy, Bryce, Zion, and the rest of them, Yosemite, whatever. Love going out there for a week at a time. And, a big part of going to national parks is walking, and in some cases, hiking, like hiking up to Scout Lookout right before Angel's Landing Trail, Walter's Wiggles and all of that. I don't know if I can do that right now. I really don't. But it's a minor victory at this point. I'm able to stand up. The pain is gone. No more pain standing. I mean, there's some subliminal pain just to the touch. When I touch my leg a little bit, it's a little sore, but not the kind of pain that I was having. No problem really with the knee too much. I do think I might have a torn meniscus in here just because I know what it feels like, and I got it over here. Now, when this leg was down, my torn meniscus leg was doing all the work. This was pushing me to get up, and the cane and the walker, it was like, honestly, even now to get up with this right knee, it's not great, but I can walk on it. And I'm foolish enough to think that I could probably go out right now and hike a couple of miles with no problem. However, I'm gonna wait because I want it to have a full healing as much time as I can give it. So I'm gonna sign out now. We're at the end of week 6. I injured it 6 weeks ago today. This is a Tuesday, and I was at Disney, and that was the day that I heard it, and Wednesday, the next day, was when I was just in agony. Dr. Worrell put me on some strong painkiller, or a moderately strong painkiller called Tramadol. And I've been taking one Tramadol, plus in the beginning I was taking like 4 ibuprofen with the tramadol because I found out online that I could take them together. That's how bad the pain was. And that got me through the first 3 weeks. And then because I'm on Eliquis, I'm not supposed to take ibuprofen. So I'm on acetaminophen now, Tylenol. I take, I think it's 1,000 milligrams, 2 500 tablets, I think there. And I'm off of the tramadol now. They kept giving me another prescription for it because the pain was bad, but since I don't need it anymore, really, I'm off. I've weaned myself off of that, and I'm just on acetaminophen. Without the tramadol and without the ibuprofen, I would not have been able to sleep or anything. So the pain management is really important. Take the drugs. If you get this problem, believe me, I've never had this kind of pain in my life. So, but keep in mind, if you've got this problem, if you just injured yourself and it's not an Achilles tear or something more serious, if you just tore a muscle back in your calf and you're experienced the swollen leg and you want to get back into action, take the pain medicine. I think they call it RICE, R-I-C-E, I think. And recline, ice, compression, elevate. I think it's called RICE. And you want to do those 4 things all day long as much as you can. You want to lie in bed, elevate your leg. You can put the compression sock on. I wear them anyway sometimes, not all the time, but I wear them sometimes because if I'm standing out in the workshop for hours and hours, it's really good to have the compression socks on. And I don't mind them. Mine are black, so they look pretty cool. But I have like 3 or 4 pair. But in any case, compression, ice, elevate, and rest, I guess. Do all those things, and in time, around, in my case, 4 weeks, I could start to see some signs that it was actually getting a little bit better. 5 weeks, I was really starting to get better. Now after 6 weeks, I can go in the pool, I can walk in, I don't have to hold any cane. I was using the cane in the pool to get me in. I don't need it anymore. I don't need either of these things, although I use the cane at night when I'm going to the bathroom just to be safe. And so that's it. There is hope. It's going to take, the blood has to reabsorb. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for the initial, and then it's going to take even more time for me to get back 100%. I fully expect it's going to take another month, maybe even 2 more months. So in my mind, it's a 2 to 4 month ordeal. And you got to suck it up and just do what the doctor says. And now I'm at the point now where I have to start doing my knee exercises again for my torn meniscus. And I was doing those religiously. Matter of fact, I was doing both legs. So I'm getting back to that. It takes me about an hour to do my leg exercises. And I do both of them, so that's why it takes a full hour. That's important, and I will be starting to do that again. But in the process of compensating for this really bad left leg, my calf, my right knee started to hurt me. So I went through that period of, I had the torn meniscus, it swelled up, eventually it went down, I started to walk again, I started to hike again. And now I tear my calf, my left calf, and now my right knee is getting screwed because it's doing all the lifting. So it started to hurt again, and I'm dealing with that right now. Okay, there is hope. And don't lose hope, because it's very depressing to go through this. You're going to watch a lot of TV and a lot of YouTube videos. And in my case, I'm semi-retired, so it doesn't matter if I work or not. I'm not accountable for anybody right now other than my wife. So I'm just saying, there is hope. You got to lay low, let the blood reabsorb, and eventually you'll get back to your old self. Bob signing out, and I hope you all have a great day.